Let's talk about Cobra Commander commentaries, formerly known as the Conundrum. Fans of Lio Convoy likely know that he recently did a 3-hour video on this man, playing a call he had with Doodle Tones and Ellie Momelli, while also discussing his actions behind the scenes, as well as the people he chooses to buddy around with. However, given Lio already talked about it, that is not what I'm going to be discussing in this commentary. You see, Conundrum responded to that video by tweeting the following. Lio is doing this for Susie because doesn't have the balls to face me, nor does Ephraim. I find this comment particularly funny for a couple of different reasons. The first one being, and I don't expect him to know this, but I do find it at least worth pointing out, I actually did want to be in the call he had with Susie and Ellie. It was them that vetoed the idea. I wanted to face him, and it was their choice that I not be involved, not mine. However, the second thing that makes this amusing is something I very much expect my target to know about. You see, I actually saw this and tried to DM him on Discord since I do have his account. I was then informed I wasn't able to. Now, this screenshot is one I took a day later, however, my point still stands. I then sent him a friend request in order to see if maybe I needed to be his friend first before I could send him messages, and found that it would not let me send him a friend request either. I then replied to the aforementioned tweet and informed him of this and have not gotten a response back at time of recording. He thinks I'm a coward for not talking things out with him, and yet he's removed any means I could have to talk things out with him, and when I point this out to him, he ignores me. And remember, his Twitter DMs are closed, and I imagine if I were to, say, comment on one of his YouTube videos, he would ignore it just like he ignored my reply to him on Twitter. Other tweets of his see him saying things like, well, the following. I know Doodle and Lio love to suppress freedom of speech because they are both commies. Okay, first off, and this is not the most important part of this, however, I do want to point it out, communists aren't inherently opposed to freedom of speech. Noam Chomsky comes to mind as somebody who is a communist, specifically of the anarcho-syndicalist variety, and has defended freedom of speech for views he personally finds abhorrent. Freedom of speech, along with freedom of the press and open elections, was also something supported by the famous communist revolutionary Leon Trotsky, and in fact was one of his many disagreements with Joseph Stalin, who was famously much more in support of authoritarianism. Also, one can suppress freedom of speech without being a communist. In fact, the idea of censorship being wrong is really only something we started to see in political theory beginning around the Enlightenment. Before then, it was an uncontested good in the mind of many philosophers. Plato endorsed it in The Republic, for example, which was written in the 4th century BC, over 2 millennia before communism first came about. The Enlightenment is also where we first got the idea of communism, by the way, because Marx viewed communism as the end result of Enlightenment-era philosophy. He also tried calling both Nataidai and Zach Not Kyle commies, because disagreeing with Cobra here is the exact same as wanting a stateless, classless, and moneyless society. Here's him just randomly declaring that Susie most likely told Lio to make distasteful remarks about the death of his father. He has no evidence, nor does he even really explain his reasoning for believing this as a possibility outside of knowing how Doodle Tones is, she would do that type of stuff without any explanation, but he still declared it. Anyway, final thoughts. Cobra, stop making baseless accusations against people. That's really all I can say. Good night and good luck.